out of my hands.
Well, Warren's calmed down a bit now. The coffee table's all cleaned up. He got a bit fiery then, Warren, for a bit. But I'm going to ask Hollie. Difficult question or not, Hollie, I don't know. But the future of the Liberal Party under the leadership it has now. And was Susan Ley kind of elbowed out? And what do you think?
I fundamentally, and it breaks my heart, think that the Liberal Party is finished. I think it's broken, and I think it, in its current form, is broken beyond repair. Some people have tried to use my support of Susan to say, "Oh, why would she join One Nation? She's a big lefty." No, I've been mates with Susan for 25 years. She was a rural and regional member. Angus Taylor. Let's not say he was responsible for pushing me out of Parliament, but he certainly preferred someone else who was going to vote for him in a leadership battle because he knew I wouldn't.
Yep.
I don't support Angus. I've been very public about that, and I think he's incompetent.
Yep.
So I don't care. You might disagree.
Sorry, I was a bit confused there.
Yeah, you're a bit unclear. A bit unclear about that one. But, I've been mates with Susan for 25 years. And, she was the first female leader. She wasn't given a go at all. I don't support net zero, and the fact that Matt Canavan tried to say somehow or other I left the Liberal Party because I was a fervent supporter of net zero. I actually sent him my resignation that I did live on air on 2GB for him to listen to. Because the one thing I did say was Susan Ley was the person who walked away from net zero, and that was solid. And the fact that that's all been forgotten, but she did it bringing the party room with her. Because she got all the input. I think she's been underestimated her whole life. But I'm a loyal friend too, and I like her, and she was at my wedding, and, I wanted to back her in because I could see the undermining that was happening, and I thought, well, if you can't support your mates, then why be mates? So I don't think Susan was treated well. Interestingly, I am still friends with a lot of people that sit in that party room. When Susan was leader, the feedback I was getting from both senators and the lower house members was no one trusted anyone in there, and no one knew who was their friends, no one knew who could be spoken to and trusted, that it was this horrible sort of feeling in the party room. What I've since been told, I've asked how it is now that Angus, the great big saviour, the massive policy brain, all of this stuff that we were told, is now the leader. What's it like? And the feedback's been, it's just bland. It's beige, it's nothing. Even his biggest backers don't think he's doing very well, so no one's saying anything. I just think it's, everyone's flat. I don't speak to any of my former colleagues and get any sense of optimism. I think the fact the night it was announced that I'd joined One Nation, former colleagues in Canberra and state parliamentarians from the Liberal Party all sent me messages of support. I think that's all very telling. At the end of the day, you've got the Teals, or the Real Housewives of Parliament House, and you've got One Nation. But, all the moderates, Menzies wanted a broad church.
Yep.
Menzies didn't want the MCG. And if you look at the Liberal Party now, there's people in Parliament at state and federal level who should be in the Greens. They're not Liberals.
No, that's correct,
and
100%.
They're that far this way. They're not Liberals. And the other thing, and what I like about One Nation versus the Liberal Party, it's not driven by these factions driven by religious ideology. I mean, there are factions in there that are, and they're all fake, but they're all driven by a religious ideology. One Nation's not driven by that. They don't go out to churches and recruit and all this sort of stuff, but this is what's going on in the Liberal Party. And, at a pub, you talk about sex, politics and religion.
Yep.
And, the Liberal Party's done its best to bring religion and politics together. So you've got, and I'm not talking conservative Catholicism, I'm talking fire and brimstone kind of, alternative, play with snakes, talk in tongues kind of stuff. And you've got that on one side, and then you've got people who should be in the Greens on the other. How do you reconcile that? And that's why I think when you look at the Teals and you look at something like One Nation, there'll be that fragmentation, that the Liberals won't have anywhere to go.
Can't Johnny Howard come in and just say, listen, you peanuts?
Oh, mate, I got to say, I love John Howard, but leave the man alone.
Yeah.
I mean, they wheel him out as this great saviour. I mean, I hope he's with us for a long time, but when he's not, what are they going to do? Are they going to make, AI holograms of him? Because, that's about the only thing they've got going for them.
Yeah. The thing that really makes me angry is this government, right? And what it makes, and my focus is not on the government because I just hate them.
Oh, they're dreadful.
They're liars.
Yeah.
They're just, everything's about pure politics. I always make the joke about, he only, elbow sleeps with his wife only if it's got a political outcome or something.
Yeah. Focus groups it before they go to bed.
And they're sending this country bankrupt. Because I'm in the mining industry, in the energy industry, and I can tell you we can't even get investment in this country. It's just gone to dog.
I just love they're talking about intergenerational equity. You know what the intergenerational equity is? We're all going to be freaking broke. We're going to be broke from everything the whole way through. No one's going to be better off. You've got the young people saying, this isn't going to help us. No. We're not going to be able to buy a house. Now, all the methods that they used, a lot of young people did buy a property they didn't want to live in and use negative gearing. And then this whole stupid idea that there's capital gains if you buy a new build, but as soon as it's got 17% of its value gone already because the next person that buys it can't claim it. Well, it is so dumb. But again, we talk about no experience. What looks good on paper doesn't necessarily translate to the real world. These guys are going to kill everyone.
And they don't get it. It's like what happened with when Plebiscite knocked that mine on the head in central.
Because of the blue V that doesn't even exist.
Yeah. And we were working on an IPO, a mine process in Western Australia. And our investors saying, hey, wait a minute, you could do 7 years of work here, which they did, get all the ticks off from the state, federal, local and everything like that, and the minister can still knock it on the head. Why would we give you money?
But it was also an Indigenous group that wasn't even from the area.
That was the other thing. And so someone said, well, you got a copper mine over there, how does that, this one's a gold mine, how did that affect you? And I said, because this is a global investment market.
Yep.
If a minister can step in and stop things happening after you spent millions of dollars, why would we give you money?
Why would you come to Australia? I mean,
why would we come here?
But a lot of our, Kerry Stokes is, he's saying, I'm looking overseas.
Yeah.
I'm going.
Yeah.
And the reality is, if you look at countries like Israel, tiny little country, their startup culture, their innovation culture is extraordinary. Yeah. And it's not because their intellect level is at a certain, it's because they invest in it, they nurture it and they support it. Yeah. We do everything we can to stifle business and investment and ingenuity in this country.
Yeah. Aspiration and entrepreneurship and all that type of stuff that we were sold when we were coming through now is a dirty word and we're going to tax you. We're going to tax on things you haven't even made money on yet.
No, but you're taxed at every minute. I mean, every time you turn around, whether you're a PAYG or you're a business owner, the volume of taxes you pay every time you get a paycheck or every time you spend some money, you're taxed on when you earn it, you're taxed on when you spend it, you're taxed on when you sell something, when you buy something. It is just this constant cycle. And it's what this Labor government wants, but it's not being pushed back on. They want us all on the government tick because that's Marxism, and this is a Marxist government.
Well, over 50% of people now depend on government money, whether it's unemployment or welfare or you've got contracts with the government. That's
long-term welfare dependency.
Yeah.
If you've got intergenerational welfare dependency in a family, well, something's got to give.
Yeah.
It's not acceptable that people are born into a family where there's 3 or 4 generations living who are all on welfare. When I was in the Senate, Jacinta and Jacinta Price, and Karen Little, with Lydia Thorpe. Yep. Not an often experience that we were all singing from the same song sheet, I can tell you. But to get proper auditing into the money that was going into these Indigenous industries. They're not going to Indigenous people. They're not going to Indigenous communities. They're not supporting families. They're not supporting, all these.
You look at the mining industry. $4 billion comes to the mining industry into these trust funds, and yet the people whose money it is on the ground are living in poverty
and beyond. Poverty and disgraceful, dangerous situations, and we've just seen the result of one of those tragic outcomes because of a living situation. But I can tell you the people that administer the funding for that area, they're not living like that.
No.
And this is the problem, and guess who voted it down? Labor and the Greens.
Yeah.
They're the ones that say we care for the communities, we're all about Indigenous communities, and they're the ones saying, but don't audit it, don't have a close look at where the money's going, because it's an absolute rot.
And it's not only the Aboriginal groups in these remote and regional areas, there are other Australians out there too, who are all under the same pressures, all under the same thing.
Can I tell you, I'll tell you this, we were doing an inquiry into raising the rate of New Start, right?
Yeah.
So they're kind people too. I had to have AFP escort because they're so wonderful and supportive. But we were in Adelaide at Elizabeth.
Yes.
And I was born in Adelaide, so not in Elizabeth, but I was born in Adelaide. Driving in, the state of the suburb with the median strips, the rubbish that was everywhere, the dead grass, the overgrown grass, the weeds, there was nothing inviting about it. And then we had the council come and tell us, you need to raise the rate. And we do so much. We do all these things. We do, try and get people into employment. And so I asked the question, really? Do you? Because when I drove in here, it looked bloody awful. Maybe you could do some employment programs of people mowing the lawn and weeding the gardens and picking up the rubbish. And the guy in the council looked at me like I had 4 heads. But this is the problem, this constant sort of passing the buck and acceptance. You're capable of working but choose not to, so you're the government's responsibility. Is not acceptable.
Tell me this, if not to digress, but with your astuteness and your knowledge, what will be the importance of the upcoming preferential votes in the election?
Well, if the Liberal Party doesn't preference One Nation, I think they will expedite their death significantly. Because people who are conservative that may still want to vote Liberal are going to look to that Liberal how to vote, and if it's going anywhere near Labor, Greens or Teals before One Nation, I just think that will further decimate their primary vote, because I think enough people will then go, bang, I'm going first off.
How can you have the Greens and people like that up higher than other parties?
The Greens should be the bottom, full stop. End of story, Greens at the bottom. I mean, there's a pretty good rule of thumb. I mean, those unicorn farmers need to be pushed out, but the fact that their vote remains steady at 12% shows there's 12% of idiots in this country, and it doesn't stagnate much. It doesn't change much. There's 12% of the people who clearly are never going to learn.
And that's usually in the city. Sydney, Melbourne,
Canberra.
Because, and I think it's because they feel guilty. They've got so much money. That they don't know what to do with themselves, or they've been brainwashed.
So,
but
Pauline's going to be possibly a PM, do you think, Hollie?
I don't know if she even sees that. I don't know if that's...
But do you think that's a possibility, isn't it?
I'd like to see her run for the lower house, because I think she could really stick it to them in question time a lot more.
I think she's got Warren.
Yeah.
I think he's going to become an orange man.
Look, I just think...
That's my suntan.
The fake tan.
The fake tan.
Look, I just think there is a real opportunity for One Nation that people are looking to. One poll does not make a trend, but the reality is the trend is continuing.
You think that's the issue. You think it's a lot, Hollie? One Nation, one flag as well?
Look, one of the best things our pub's done is we've funded our local village to light up the Australian flag at night in our village.
Thank you.
And, we only have one flag. There is only one flag. If you want to have other flags, go for your life. But officially, there's one flag, and that's the end of it. So
it must confuse when Albanese goes overseas and speaks in front of 3 flags. What does a country overseas say? What flag is your country?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. But, the anti-colonialists, you can't have any of these things.
That's the other thing, the hatred of Australia. They really hate, like what's the name, Jacinta Allen in Victoria. Oh, we can't have the Australian flag, it's diversity. Yeah. What the hell?
There's this, but it's
even
almost...
thousands of Aboriginals fought under that flag. Second World War, Vietnam War, everything.
You bet.
And if you go to the War Memorial, you know, and I did a lot of work with them when I was in Parliament, and their director's fantastic. But there's, you know, Chinese Australians who went over. They came out for the gold rush and ended up going and fighting in the war.
Yeah.
Like, we need to acknowledge we have, and I think you can have multi-ethnic groups that create a rich sort of tapestry and melting pot in the country. Multiculturalism is a failed experiment because it has led to ghettoisation.
Correct.
And if you look back on the way, you know, whether it's the Greeks and Italians or even the Vietnamese, or so it's not just Europeans, there's been plenty of the Asian culture come in. It's part of our culture, it's part of our, you know, the food and all of those sorts of things that bring people together. I mean, you know,
Chinese is a national dish in Australia, and also after being
sweet
the
and sour
Turks,
pork in fluorescent pink, you know,
and Mongolian lamb, and then you get, you know, after being on the Terps, you got to have a kebab.
You know, and we generate, you know, the Chico roll, the spring roll, you name it. There's a dim sim in every Bay Marie in the country servo.
Holly, a band that I loved, still do. I haven't seen him for a year or so. Brendan Nelson.
Yeah.
I find a great Australian.
Fabulous Australian.
Knifed by a certain fellow that he should never have been knifed for, that knifed a few others as well.
But it was like Susan, you know, Brendan never got to go.
He was great.
He's a lovely, lovely person who I have all the time in the world for.
Yeah.
He is absolutely beautiful.
And a good politician and a good Australian.
And very smart.
Yes.
Very, very smart. And look, the work that he did with the War Memorial.
You bet.
Incredible.
Absolutely sensational.
Yep.
Absolutely sensational. And there are plenty of people. But again, he was a doctor that ran a small practice.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
it
right,
came
from Tasmania.
from that experience. You know, I mean, this obsession as well. And it started in the Liberal Party. I think it's filtered out, this obsession that to run for a seat, you've got to be born there, educated in there, live there, your kids still live there. Personally, I think that makes you incredibly dull. Like, if you've never moved and never been anywhere else or experienced something else, if you've, you know, I mean, look, I was born in Adelaide, then went to school in Perth, came to Sydney, went to uni in Bathurst, came back to Sydney, got married, went to Orange, Kidal. Then I moved to Moree, you know, for well over a decade, and back to Sydney. You know, I can't stand in front of somewhere and say, oh, I was born and bred here, and I went to this school, or my kids still go to this school, or whatever. But, you know, a lot of the political parties are now looking for lower house members who are so parochial and never left an area, rather than saying, you're a great policy brain, we need you to be able to contribute from the party room.
Yes.
So we think this is a seat that, you know, is available for you to run in. It's just extraordinary. And, you know, even if you look at the Americans, they move states into districts for their parties to get them into Congress, to get them contributing to the national debate. And yet we've got this obsession with, you know, if you're not a third generation person from a particular suburb, you couldn't possibly understand the area. I mean, the reality is, you know, if you live in Kingsgrove, it's probably got the same sort of issues as if you live in, you know, Hunters Hill or Gladesville, or, you know.
It's about what you can contribute. If, you know, we need to get people who had worked in businesses. We need to get people who have built things, got some experiences. We need to get people who actually can sit there and you don't have to be a genius just to sit there and be able to understand revenue and expenditure and how it gets affected by tax.
How many
and
of
all
them
this
in there could read a balance sheet? Yeah, I mean, that's just nuts. But we're not teaching it from school. I mean, I've got some of the young, you know, the 18 to 22-year-olds sit there. One of them was asking me questions the other night, because honestly, when Pauline came to the pub, it sold out in 2 days. It was mental. And, you know, someone said, oh, look at all the old people. No, we had 60 chairs at the front. You know, 190 plus standing in the next two tiers. And that's where, you know, we obviously provided the seats to those that needed them. But it was the young ones that were there, and they loved it. But they don't understand politics. They don't understand even how the voting system works and what the different tiers of government are. And I was asking, when I was at school, it was called social studies.
Correct.
And I said, do you guys do stuff like that anymore? And they looked at me like, they don't learn about this. They learn about the pink-haired gender identity, but they don't learn what their vote means and how it operates and which level of government's responsible for what. They're not taught to be proud of the country. So no wonder defence, recruitment's down. How do you recruit people to fight for the country when they don't even like it?
They don't even like. That's how they have problems with the police as well. They can't get recruitments because everyone, a young woman I was at Tony Abbott's book launch, and she got up and said, "Oh, my kids come home from school and said that where do we belong?" So they had some Aboriginal person come to the school and say, "You don't belong here." What? We all we grew up together. We all we're building a beautiful, great nation, and I'm just sick and tired of people knocking it.
Oh, look, this is and then you get politicians say, "Oh, it's the best country in the world." Well, it's obviously not because they're endorsing through their policies and through their systems.
We're going to take a break for a minute, give Hollie a break, and let that truck go by.
Hey, they must have heard your complaint.